It says we are live. Hopefully people can see and hear us. It looks like YouTube is having some issues, so hopefully everything holds up.
It has not flipped over yet.
Is it still spinning?
The stream isn't spinning. It's just sitting there with the come and take it screen. Nope. It says an error occurred. Please try back later.
Yeah. Now I did get a thing that said that we're live, like a separate little deal. So an alert. So hopefully it's live, and I don't know if people can see and hear us, but we're here. You might have to watch the replay because it definitely looks like something's going on with YouTube.
Well, there may not be a replay. It may just not even load.
It might not.
If the server's down, it won't load because it's not recording anything.
Okay. Well, it says we are live. I'm just going to let them know, but maybe they can't see it. I just want to see, can anyone see us or hear us? This could be. But anyway, the show shall go on, and if it loads, it loads. Double B said yes. So
Double B can see us. Frank can see us.
Yeah, Dennis B can't. Alpha Romeo 15 can't.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, Double B says no, Big J nothing.
Yeah, I'm getting an error occurred.
Big circle spinning. Wow.
I'm going to see if it tells me what this error means. No, it won't even tell me what the error is. It's just spinning too. Yeah, YouTube may genuinely be down, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever will we do without YouTube?
Double B says he's got us. So
Double B, how are you seeing us and nobody else is?
I don't know.
Shenanigans.
Craig Smith says now it's fine. CZ's saying okay.
All right.
Well, we're just gonna, if this loads, and it's not on our end, it's YouTube. So we're sitting here talking and everything. So we'll just go on with the show. Hopefully this thing loads and everything else. So we'll just pretend like everything's working as normal. Hopefully everybody can jump in and it doesn't kick us off.
Yeah.
How have you been, sir?
Just fine, man. Just fine. Extremely busy. I'm moving basically from early morning until late in the evening every day.
Yeah, it's really good to see you, and I'm glad you're back, or glad you're on tonight. I know that there won't be every time you can be on, but I'm glad you're on for now. And like I said, hopefully this loads. Gregory's saying a commercial's working. People are saying it's spinning. So again, we know that YouTube is having some issues. It's not us, it's YouTube. We've both gotten messages saying YouTube is messing up, and everybody and their brother's telling us. So what has been happening lately with you? I know you've been working, been busy, super busy. That's why you haven't been on the chats. But what else has been going on in your world?
A lot of it revolves around firearms, of course. Not all of it. I still have a normal day job, but yeah, I mean, still shooting when I can. I do a lot of instructing now, more than I used to. And that keeps me busy. Everybody wants lessons, private lessons, new shooters, that sort of thing. And so myself and my comrades at Centerfire are busy all of the time. So, that's, it's been a lot of fun, but, it keeps me busy. I don't think anybody is seeing any of this, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, people are saying it's spinning, and like I said, we're just going to continue, and if it loads eventually, we'll see what happens. But now, as far as you were saying, new shooters, are these people that have never ever even owned a gun or picked up a gun or shot a gun? Is that what you're seeing most of, or just people wanting to be better with their firearms?
Good question. So it's a mix. I'd say it's probably 75% brand new shooters. Never shot, or if they've shot, it's maybe been once. Could have been a very long time ago, that sort of thing. And then the next big group are people that just bought a firearm. Sometimes they literally are taking it out of the box for the first time in the lesson, which is fine. And they want to learn about it, and shooting and safety and how to disassemble it and all of those types of things. And so it's a mixed bag. And then every once in a while, although not often right now, we get somebody who can shoot, but they want to learn more. They want to refine skills, and just improve various things, tweak various things to improve their overall knowledge, if you will. So
yeah.
But
now, what kind of guns are you seeing coming into people training? Is it Glocks? Is it everything?
I will tell you, overwhelmingly, there's one firearm for new shooters that I see more often than not, and this was very surprising to me at first.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I want to guess.
You guess, go for it.
Okay, brand new shooters. It's either going to be a 22 pistol, or it's going to be the Shield EZ.
It's a Shield EZ, and whether it's a 380 or a 9mm, probably 9 more than 380, but that has been the predominant firearm. Now, I've had a few other firearms here and there, some that are bigger, more home defense oriented, but that is overwhelming amount of Shields. And we seem to keep a reasonable stock of those. Not always, of course. I mean, everything's a gamble with every gun store at this point, but we are seeing them with some frequency. So I think Smith & Wesson is really concentrating very hard on the Smith & Wesson Shield EZ.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 on order without the safety, the 9mm. One's for my mother-in-law and one for her friend. You know, they're going to come in and fill out the paperwork, of course. But, you know, I've got 2 of them. And I mean, it has been forever. And they'll either come in with a safety on them, or they just won't get them. So, you know, seems like, I mean, I know other pistols are really hot right now too, you know, trying to get whatever you can get. But I just think bang for the buck and ease of use and things like that. And of course, the EZ slide and mags and all that is a plus for a new shooter. And it's not as intimidating as, you know, some of the other guns that might be out there, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I agree. But all of it has been very interesting. And most people have been eager to learn and really ears open, that sort of thing. I haven't had very many people where I felt they're doing this out of some sort of obligation or anything like that. So that's been rewarding, if nothing else.
Awesome.
So have you ever tried or reviewed the See All sighting system? No, I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a new little sighting system. I've seen it, and you know, you set like your phone on this little holder, and then it's got like this animated target, and you shoot at it, and it's kind of like a mantis, but it kind of gives you like a target. It looks kind of cool. I think it was a Kickstarter program, I think, and so, you know, I think that's how I've seen a couple of people talking about it, and I've seen some ads for it and stuff like that. But
interesting. Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, hopefully this chat, you know, loads later and all that other stuff. I mean, it very well might not, but if not, hey, it's going to be great catching up with you. But, so what, you know, we were talking about ammo earlier. What are you seeing, or, you know, what's your thought on the ammo thing, you know, at the shop and your personal and all the other stuff? What's going on with ammo in your area?
Well, ammo, I mean, it's depleted everywhere. I mean, people will walk into Centerfire and say they just simply cannot find ammo anywhere. We probably get 100 calls a day. Do you have this ammo? Do you have this ammo? And all that sort of thing. And so it's depleted pretty much everywhere. And caliber selection is very difficult. I mean, we have some to walk out the door, but not a lot. and it's just kind of random calibers, but not the type of stuff that people typically want most of the time. So this is one of those really good times to diversify your your ammo and firearms selection, because when one may be down or you don't have a way to feed it any freedom seeds, you've got to have some sort of backup.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I know that we've talked about this before, but as far as your diversity on your calibers and your ammo and things like that, this is, and we've talked about this before, but this is a great, if you only have 9mm and all of a sudden you can't get 9mm, this is when this becomes a huge problem. I mean, I'm in Oklahoma this week, and at lunch and stuff, and after work, I've gone into a couple places just to look what they have. And in Oklahoma, they have nothing. I mean, I haven't seen. I'll take that back. I did see like 4 boxes of defensive ammo in 9mm, and like 2 or 3 boxes of 45. Now, I have seen a lot of 10mm, but that's it. And like for 5.56 and things like that, I mean, they are asking like stupid prices. And even for the defensive ammo, it's just gotten ridiculous for these prices they're asking. So like we've always talked about, for situations like this, it's always good to have loaded up on some ammo, because we don't ever know what's going to happen with this kind of mess.
Right. That's absolutely true. And people now trying to stock up, that doesn't work. When times are, or supplies rather, are plentiful, that's when you need to, if you're going to the range, whatever, buy enough, shoot half, take half with you every time. And just, you don't have to have thousands and thousands of rounds sitting around, but enough to load all your magazines at a bare minimum. Hopefully a little bit extra beyond that, but at least enough to, if you had to depend on your firearm, you were able to do it.
Yeah. And, Armsman's bringing up a point, with 40, he's seen 40, for a little bit. Now it's very scarce. I mean, I think that's what's happening is, I was seeing like no 9, but a ton of 40, a ton of 45. And I think people have either bought a 45 or bought a 40 or whatever, and they're just getting whatever they can get and trying to load up on, buy a gun that'll fit the ammo they can find.
Yeah. I hear you.
So, yeah, hopefully, this YouTube thing works. I know a lot of people are complaining about it over here. We're trying to do the best we can. I mean, we're able to talk, and seems to be working on our end. As I understand, it's a YouTube issue across the board. So Double B says he's got it now, but it'll probably go back off. So who knows? This is one of those things that's probably going to keep going in and out for people, and seeing the little spinning wheel. We know all that. So sorry, everyone's having this problem. But yeah, it's like, what do you like as far as your ammo, and don't say amounts, but as far as your calibers that you have, what do you currently have?
Well, I mean, predominantly 9mm. I mean, I'd say 99.999% of my collection is 9mm. I've got some 22 as well, because I've got a few 22s in the collection. I think it's good to have some of that regardless. But not anywhere the amount a lot of people have with that. And now that's very difficult to get a hold of as well, which doesn't surprise me. But then I've got a random assortment of different things that I've just amassed over the years. And things like 357 SIG. I've got a reasonable amount of 357 SIG. I do not own a 357 SIG, but it's one of those things when I acquire ammo or somebody gives me some or whatever, I just stash it away. And, I don't get rid of it. I don't throw it away. I don't really give it away or anything. It's just, I stash it away. And so, I've got other calibers, 380, some 45, not a lot. What else? 38 special, 357. I've got some 300 blackout. I don't own a 300 blackout rifle. And so just kind of random stuff lying around.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a bunch of 22, a bunch of 9, 45. I have a ton of 40. I've got not a ton, but I mean, I've got like I don't know, 1,500 rounds of 40, and I don't even own a 40 anymore. Because I looked at it this way, I could, sell it off, or, that might come in handy later on down the road to trade off for something or whatever if stuff gets really crazy. I had some 380 and I sold it to my neighbor because she needed it for defensive. And I gave it to her for what I paid for it. I didn't give her the crazy prices they're asking for it now. But and then I've got a lot of 308, 300 blackout, 5.56, 223, stuff like that. And I even have like 7mm, 8mm, 243. I've got I have some of those rifles, but I don't ever shoot them. So I've got a pretty good amount of that kind of stuff, because you never know what you're going to get into.
I totally agree. Now, but then it comes into firearms too, because you can have a wide variety of ammo, but if you don't have the firearms to make it go bang, it's not going to do you any good. And so I've been kind of working on that a little bit, because again, the majority of my collection is 9mm and a couple of 22s. Now I've got shotguns and that sort of thing. I've got a couple of ARs, but I've been, trying to kind of get back into diversifying the collection a little bit. I'm getting back into 1911s, and true 1911s, 45 ACP. And that's been a lot of fun. But it also means that right now 45 is easier to get a hold of, at least in my area. And so now I can, enjoy shooting that and not worry quite as much about the crunch.
Yeah. All right. Kyla is asking KS and Big Johnson Guns and Gear, do you think there is an advantage of having a sighting system that can be used across all platforms?
I would have to know a little bit more about what that means. Are we talking red dots, or what are we talking? For me, I don't know if this answers the question or not, but I'm an iron sight guy. I always have been, and I can still make them work just fine. So that's my consistent sighting system across all platforms.
Yeah. I would definitely say iron sights, as a must or as a have to have. But if you've got dependable red dots, even on rifles or pistols, I think that, that's sufficient too, as long as you keep batteries in them and all that good stuff, make sure that there's no problems. I don't think that's an issue, and it's always good to have, or always good to be proficient with other, LPVOs and stuff. I have those, and I have scopes and things on other rifles. Am I super proficient with those? No, not as I would like to be. Like all the holdovers and stuff. I can kind of figure it out and Kentucky windage it, and get a good idea. If I'm shooting like at steel or something farther away, but I'm not the best at that by any means. I'll never claim to be.
Right on.
Let's see here. Ooh, this is really a good question. Are the Remington R1 Enhanced Commander 45 good 1911s?
Yeah, so I don't think they're bad 1911s. They're certainly going to do the job. I would consider them on, I guess, not on the low end, but on the lower end of the 1911 spectrum. But remember, it's a very wide spectrum. There are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 custom 1911s, and so yet to put it into perspective, when I consider kind of the lower end budget, we start at maybe $400 or $500, and we're talking very, very basic, whether it's Taurus or things like that, and then you move up. So Remington R1s, I think, are good, reasonable build quality, entry level, generally speaking, 1911s. And entry level is not a bad thing. That there should be no stigma around that whatsoever. It's a basic 1911. Not a lot of frills or anything like that. And it's not necessarily hand fitted, hand built. And 1911s don't have to be old. World War II Colt 1911s where those things rattled like cans. And they were built that way because they had to be able to switch out parts and be very compatible with each other. And so the tolerances couldn't be very tight on those. And so 1911s don't have to be. Now, when you get into the custom world, things get far more tight. In fact, they can be very challenging to work with and taking apart and all that sort of thing. But yeah, Remingtons are fine. I mean, for me, I kind of consider the sort of $1,000 range to be kind of my entry point to 1911s. I mean, I want to get into something that's got a few more features, perhaps, and a little bit tighter tolerances. Not a lot. I mean, they're still pretty loose at that point, but tighter. I mean, that's kind of where I sit with that. But again, the Remington R1s aren't bad.
I would say save a little more money and probably get into like a SIG or maybe like a Smith & Wesson, something just a little bit above the Remington R1. The R1s, I've played with them and stuff. They're a little harsh. They're not as buffed and polished and things like that. Will they run? They probably will. They could be more finicky. I've had a friend that had one and he had a horrible experience with his, but his was one of the old ones. It wasn't the enhanced, it was the R1, basic one. But I would say save a little more money and get into something a little more reliable. SIGs 1911s are nice. I've never had a problem with them. I own one. They work really well. So that's what I would recommend.
Right.
Just personally.
Another consideration that it would probably come in a little bit less expensive than SIG, but still good quality. The Ruger SR 1911s, those are really good for the money. Again, they're pretty no frills, but they're well built. I don't think I've heard very many bad stories about SR 1911s, and they've been around for 6, 7, 8 years now. I mean, it's been quite some time, so that might be another consideration. And you can walk into those. I'm not saying right now because I don't know what prices have done with those. I doubt they've moved too much, but I mean, $800 or $900 for that. I would probably opt for that over a Remington. That's just me, and I think part of that is brand awareness. Ruger is in a great place. Remington is not.
Right.
So you might want to consider that because warranty and that sort of thing. Big Johnson mentioned Smith & Wesson. Now, those are typically going to be a little bit more expensive, but they are very well built. Sig Sauer makes tremendously good 1911s. And that's going to be in the next tier up because now you're talking 12 to 1500 a little bit for some of those 1911s, but they are very nice.
Now, I would say, if you're going a little higher than that, I would say Dan Wesson is really nice, but you're taking quite a jump up. But they're super nice guns also.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Also, I know it looks like we're getting more people being able to see it. I did want to say Happy Veterans Day. If there's any veterans out there, I want to tell you appreciate your service, and your family's service, all that stuff, for past and present. Really means a lot. Definitely wanted to throw that out there. Got to support our military for sure. But now, what has been piquing your interest lately, or is there a gun out there that you've gotten or that you wanted to get or anything like that?
Yes, for sure. Although Pete just said I can see KS wearing a 2011 shirt. I can't even afford the shirt. Yes, you can. But that was pretty funny. Yes. So aside from some things I've got coming in, there's one that I have on order. It may be a little while before it comes in, and this is totally nerdy, and a lot of people might not get behind it. But I'm a gun nerd. Keep in mind, it's the P320 AGX Scorpion. I mean, I love the idea of the alloy frame. I think that's just super cool on a P320. It might turn out to be a total dud, but I kind of doubt it. And they look very cool. I love the color combination of the grips and everything. And so that will arrive sometime. Don't know when.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they're cool for people who want them. Me personally, it's nothing that I personally am interested in. But I think it is cool that you can change the grips and, the back strap and some things like that, and add a little more weight to it. That can help people with recoil and things like that. Anything that can help other people, some polymer wonders, or snappy for some people is what they'll say, or they have more recoil, that this can help dampen the recoil. So I think it's a good thing. Now, as far as the collector coin and all that, I mean, it is what it is. And, I guess they're talking about doing a limited amount of them. So that might be a cool thing for the collector factor, but I'm personally not into them.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
So Kyla is asking you, whoops, here it is right here. When are you going to start making content again?
When time permits, man. I'd love to. I mean, I've thought about, I've got some different ideas written down and just shorts. So it would be video shorts. I did that staccato art video, and it was immediately fully demonetized. And so it does not get any recommendations. Nobody sees it. And that drives me nuts, because it's work, to do that stuff and then have it go nowhere. And keep in mind, I don't care about the monetization portion. It's just, I'd like for people to be able to see it and either enjoy it or make fun of it or whatever, but just see it. And they can't, they don't. And so that's extremely irritating to me. So if I do anything going forward, it's going to be video shorts, no intro, no shooting, no nothing. And it would be bare bones, basic stuff. Also, I want to keep everything off of YouTube's radar, because I think, it could be any number of things that's doing that, whether it's the intro footage, or range footage or any of that stuff. I'm kind of over it. And so if and when time permits to be able to do videos again, it's going to be, it might even be off the cuff and short and just kind of, here's a gun. This is what I love about it. Here's some cool features, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that, people would enjoy that. I know I would. It doesn't have to be a big, long, drawn out thing, and, a lot of, editing and all of that kind of stuff put into it. I have noticed that YouTube has, well, me personally, I don't know about other creators, but they've been really hammering me pretty hard. I mean, I've got a ton of videos that are demonetized, but like probably the last 6 or 8, maybe even 10 that I've put out, instantly demonetized, instantly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm not putting any weird wording in there, and nothing crazy in the titles, none of that kind of stuff. And it's automatically getting demonetized. So I don't know if it's just because I'm a gun channel and we're in a political situation right now. I don't know if that's what it is, or, if I'm just on their radar. I have no idea, but it's very irritating. It's killed the views. If you go back and look, I was getting thousands and thousands of views. Now I'm getting 200 and 300. It's just killed it. But I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And, if they want to shut me down, then, it's up to them. But I'm not looking at it, YouTube doesn't pay us millions of dollars or any of that kind of stuff. I wish they did. But it would be nice to, like you said, at least get your product out there, let people be able to see it and just have your opinion on it. But that's being definitely filtered big time.
Right.
Definitely throttled down.
Yep. That's absolutely correct, without question. So Killa should be picking up a G3C next Friday. Stoked about that for the pricing. So congratulations on that, man. I think they're good guns. I really do. I know they're kind of on the budget end, but who cares? I have never heard a bad thing about them, or at least I haven't heard very much in terms of bad. And you have to kind of scrape away the top 10 and bottom 10% of everything to get to the truth. So I think you'll enjoy it, man.
I think any gun, whether it be budget or whatever, there are some guns that are made on Fridays and things like that. We've all talked about that, even like cars. I would just, whatever it is, if it's high end, medium, low end, whatever, just test it and make sure it's going to run all the ammo that you're going to put through it before you say this is going to be my carry gun or my truck gun or whatever it might be. Make sure that it's going to work. And I know right now with the ammo situation, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to go out and put 300 or 500 rounds in it or through it. And I can understand that, but you definitely don't want to have it loaded up and the thing not work. So True. Just, if you're And the main things that I look for, and you probably do too, is when I'm shooting a pistol, I'm looking at how it's extracting, if it's just barely peeing out of there or something's just weird, or I'm getting back at my face and then, forward and sideways and all, just super erratic. I'll even try a different brand of ammo to see if it's doing the same thing with it. So that's what I try to check. I'm just looking if the gun's heating up, if it's doing anything weird. And then when I get back, especially on a new gun, I'll take it apart, see if anything's wearing strangely, or if it's just normal wear, because I've got plenty of guns and I can check normal wear. Those are the things that I'm looking for. So you probably do the same too.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. But let's see here. Am I missing any questions?
I don't think so right now.
Okay. Yeah, and if anybody's jumping in, it looks like we haven't heard of any complaints, maybe a couple of people, but we did, apparently YouTube was having an issue prior to the chat, so hopefully that's fixed. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm actually checking out, I'm periodically looking at other content sites, and The Verge is saying that this is a worldwide outage.
Wow. Well, hopefully they load this chat after we end it and upload it and everything works. If it gets shut down or canceled, I noticed we only have 12 people on, which is very strange. So, that tells me that something's not right. I don't think we've ever had, oh, nope, we got 13. I'm sorry, we got 13 people.
It's an elite crowd.
Yeah, I was going to say, we usually blow that out of the water, but looks like all kinds of weird stuff's happening. But yes, and that is true. Right now, a box of ammo does equal a chunk of gold, or an ounce of gold.
Yeah.
And that's what's so crazy about this. And tell me your opinion on this. When the stores get ammo in, and I do know of this happening at one place. There's people like on waiting list, or I guess you could say, hey, I'll give you some extra money if you hold some ammo for me, because I actually heard of it happening. So when the ammo comes in, they're storing some boxes back for customers and stuff like that. And, I think some of these people in these crazy times are buying some of this ammo and not just hoarding it, they're actually buying it and reselling it for a huge markup. And I know that that's happening at places. I'm not doing it, but I know that it's happening. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I'm against it, of course, but I mean, there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
I suppose to a degree that's capitalism.
Yes, it is.
And so, I mean, again, I'm opposed to it because that makes it just more challenging for people who maybe either are not in the know of how much they should be paying, or they're just, desperate to get some ammo, which a lot of people are. And that puts you in a really bad spot. And so you're spending a lot more than you perhaps should. And so that's frustrating, but it's also frustrating. I mean, I more times than I can count over the last 6 months or so, I've had people get very irritated with me when I say, that's all I can give you. And sorry, it's the same everywhere right now. And there are a lot of places, in fact, there are a lot of places you have to buy a gun to get a box of ammo, which just, again, blows my mind.
Yes, and I have seen that too. Matter of fact, I was just at a gun store, gun range, not in Oklahoma, but it's in an area it's close to where I live, but I don't frequent this range. When there, I was looking around and they had ammo and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, you guys have a lot of ammo. I'm like, what's the price on that particular ammo? And they're like, are you going to be shooting here? And I was like, no. And they're like, you can't buy ammo unless you shoot here. We'll sell you 2 boxes. You have to go in and buy a day pass, and then you have to shoot at least 1 box, and you can leave with the other box if you choose to. And I was just like, wow. And then I've seen it where you have to buy a gun to get ammo.
Right.
So
now we are in a place where any defensive ammo we have, it's out. People can buy whatever they want when it's on. It's gone. That's fine. But the range ammo right now it's for the range only. And I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. and it's just based upon quantities more than anything else. I mean, any ranges want to make sure that people have ammo to be able to use the range. And so I kind of get that philosophy a little bit. YouTube seems to be back up. And I see more people flooding in. So welcome to those who are joining now.
Yes. And it looks like Insight is some, sorry.
I think while he types.
Yeah. Well, I think I had the caps on, but whatever. But yeah, it's, you know, I guess it's, you know, it's their policies and their procedures and whatever they want to do. That's what they have the control to do. You know, I'm just, it's crazy because like I happened to be at a place today, just, you know, there, and there was this guy there, and he, you know, is an older gentleman, and he had this little basket, and he was just loading up all these different calibers. And I guess you could get 4 boxes of each caliber. There was 25 ACP, 32 ACP. I mean, you know, they had some of these weird things. He was just buying it and loading it up.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking at him and stuff, you know, and I mean, not staring at him, but, and then he turned around and he's like, "Oh, do you need to get some of this?" And I was like, "No, sir." You know, and he's like, "Yeah, I just got to load up on this so I can go, so I, you know, because I've got plans to get rid of it." And I was like,
"Yeah, sure."
So I'm thinking, okay, he's buying it to resell it, you know, and he's just getting whatever he can get.
Right.
But I was just like, "Yeah, okay, you're one of those guys." So, but you know, it is what it is. Now, is there anything out there or anything that you want or you're thinking about getting? Or, and I know right now, you know, especially with the gun prices and things like that on some guns are still fairly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything out there that's got you excited, since we haven't talked in so long, or you've been on so long? You know, is there anything at the store or whatever that you're seeing that you're wanting personally?
No, I mean, as we mentioned before, I'm kind of getting back into traditional 1911s and having a good time with that, and especially 45 ACP versus 9mm, and really for ammo diversity more than anything else. But yeah, no, and the SIG AGX Scorpion, very excited for that. But other than that, no, nothing. I mean, I told myself, all right, I'm sort of out of the game once these last couple of firearms come in, and just enjoy what I have and concentrate on training and all of that sort of thing. And so no, not really, to be honest with you. I mean, it'd be fun to see things like the DWX, which is so tiring to talk about. That will absolutely not be coming out this year, and probably not next year either. So, you know, that's fine. And now that SHOT's canceled, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how all that is handled and how new firearms for 2021 are announced, if there are going to be very many. So it's an odd time right now. And Pistol Pete, we'll come back to your question in a second.
Yeah, I'm of course, you know, I'm excited for the DWX to come out whenever it does. You know, if it does, but who knows on that. But I think that's going to be a cool gun, and I know a lot of people want the compact, and then a lot of people want the full size and things like that. I think it's cool that it takes P10C mags, you know, and then the other one I think takes P01 mags. So I think that's cool if they stay with that. But you know, there's nothing really out there that's just, oh my God, I got to have it, you know. And speaking, I think it was Scott was talking about from Insight Freedom. He was talking about, you know, he's building an AR-10. You know, I love AR-10s, but right now to get basic parts, you know, like barrels and, you know, forends and, you know, just normal parts, it's like pulling teeth to try to get some of that stuff too. Yeah. You know, I've got 2 builds that we've been waiting on parts forever for. This has been going on for now, I think we're into the 6th month or 7th month, and still don't have all the parts for them. So they can't even start it until we have all the parts in, and then, you know, they got to put everything, you know, do it all up. But I'm been super excited about that, but it's just like, come on, I want my parts, you know, I want this thing to get going so I can enjoy it or enjoy them. But so far that's not happening either. You know, I keep talking about it, going, get the parts, but we're at everyone's mercy for that.
Right. Right. Very, very true. Very true.
But I did want to say one thing real quick. Kyla was asking, where's places to get your guns milled? I've got tons of videos on that, from the actual companies that I've personally used. I know you've got some videos on that too. The slides and stuff that you've used in companies. And I think even MD Polo threw out one. So, it just depends on where you are and if you want to ship it off and what their lead times are. Because I know a lot of the places have pretty long lead times right now. So,
yeah, that's very true. But you're exactly right. There are a host of companies out there. Some specialize in certain firearms, so you might want to kind of investigate that a little bit and see if there's some feedback. But most of the companies that appear in a lot of videos and that sort of thing, they're good companies. So just find the one you want and the firearms that they service, and you're good to go.
Yeah. So, did you want to go back to that question that you were asked earlier?
Well, yeah, Pistol Pete had asked which 1911s was I getting into. So picked one of them up tonight. It's Colt 1911, just a Series 70, 45 ACP, government model, very basic plain Jane, but I love that firearm. And I've had one before and sold it just, as we gun people tend to do. But this time it's staying, it's permanent. It's here, and it's very bare bones, very GI, but it's got the great roll marks, U.S. government model, and all that kind of thing. And so excited about that. And then another Colt that's actually arriving tomorrow. It's a 9mm competition, and I know I'm trying to diversify ammo, and here I'm talking about a 9mm. But it's a great firearm. I've actually, once again, I've had one of those before, but now it's a collection thing. I'm not doing all the repeats and all that kind of stuff anymore. I'm trying to finalize the collection and get happy with that. But then a 6 hour, probably an Emperor Scorpion, because I like SIG 1911s a lot. Now that would have the rail and all of the bells and whistles, the night sights and all that kind of thing. So that would be much more fully loaded. And I think that's probably it on the 1911 front for a while. I mean, because I have some now. I mean, I've the Dan Wesson Guardian and a couple of Staccatos that are real 1911s, not 2011s. So I feel a little bit better about the collection, and then one 10mm. So that's it.
Well, there you go. That's good. Yeah. And, Gunny's bringing up a point, and that's kind of how I'm feeling sometimes, plastic guns, you have plastic guns. I have plastic guns. A lot of people have plastic guns, but, some people don't have alloy guns or, steel guns or different variety, or, I've even got guns where part of the lower is polymer, aluminum or alloy, and then the slide is stainless steel. So, I think it's good to kind of have an experience of all the guns. And then I've got the standard 1911 government model, it's not a Colt, but it's my SIG, but, it doesn't have the fancy rail or anything like that. And then I've got railed versions where you can hang lights on it. And I mean, I just like experiencing different things. And I wanted to bring this up, and since you're on here, and get everybody's feedback in the chat also. I had a guy, and I went in to copy his comment after he put it on there, and I put them up on Instagram. So if you ever want to see all these questions I get asked, I usually do post them over on Instagram in my story. But he basically went on this little tangent and was chewing me out because I don't have any revolvers on my channel. And he's like, you don't even own revolvers. You don't have anything. I went through your catalog and you don't have any revolvers. You're not a real American if you don't have revolvers. And I mean, it was this, I was reading it and it was like 5 paragraphs long and just chewing me out. And then I went to take a picture of it. He deleted it right before I was going to do it. But, and he doesn't know that I have 4 revolvers, but I just don't. I shot them when I was younger and stuff like that, but they just don't do anything for me anymore. What's your opinion on revolvers? Or do you ever get asked, why don't you show all these revolvers or do all this other stuff? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I don't get asked a lot of things in comments these days. A lot of the comments that I get now are like spam for wicker. So that's extremely annoying. But revolvers, although they're fine, they have a place. There's nothing wrong with them. They do zero for me. They just simply I've owned, a handful of revolvers over the last probably 30 years or so. It just doesn't do anything for me. It's not a thing. I've seen some really cool ones. I mean, the Korth ones and some of those, they're freaking cool. But first, I'm not going to spend the money on that kind of revolver. And second, it's not a thing. I mean, the only revolver rounds that I own are for my Marlin lever action, and that's it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a 357 19, I think it's a 19-2. I've got 238s, and a couple of them they're special editions. Matter of fact, it was Smith & Wesson's Performance before they had the Performance Shop. So these are kind of special, but I don't really show them because I don't know, a lot of people don't need to know all my business. But, I shot them when I was younger. I enjoy them, but neither one of them or none of them are single action. They're double action, single action. So, your first trigger pull's pretty freaking harsh, or you can pull the hammer back and you can pop one off. But it's like the ammo is much more expensive. You've got, 6 rounds, it's 5 rounds. It's just nothing. It just doesn't excite me. Now, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a big boy gun and all this other stuff. And of course, when I was learning on it, my dad would he'd load like mostly 38s and then put a couple of 357s in there and have me pop them off. And then when I'd hit that one, I would be like, oh, wow, but, it just doesn't do anything for me. And I've shot 44s, I've shot 500s, I've shot the 450 or 460 Casull. I've shot those. I even shot balls. What's the one you said? Where the barrel's different, the Chiappa Rhino. Yeah. And they're cool, but they're just not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have no hate towards them.
Sure. Now, I will admit the Chiappas are pretty cool. Pretty cool looking. Again, it's just not a thing. It's not not on my radar. So it doesn't excite me.
And I agree with you. I've put it up on Instagram. I've held the Korth and, but 75 and 8200 and stuff for a revolver. I'm just like, whoa. And they're beautiful firearms. I mean, they are beautiful, and they're freaking awesome. I would love to own one, but it's just not my wheelhouse. I would have it and I'd be like, check this out, but I'd never shoot the damn thing.
Right.
So why have it? But, and way back when I first started carrying back in the 1920s, because everybody says I'm old, I carried a 38 J-frame and all that stuff. And, it was fine for what it was back then, but everybody forgets that I was around and I was shooting before Glock even came out. So, I've been there and done that, but, and I really do think the old 1911s, like, your 70 series and all that stuff, because Pistol Pete's bringing it up. I think, a lot of that stuff with the old spur hammers, I mean, those are really cool guns.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like those a lot.
Yeah. No, I do too. I very much do too. There's kind of a nostalgic. I mean, the very first gun I shot was a Colt 45 from World War II. When I was very young, just about blew me over, and fell in love with it the second I did that. And so there's always a special place in my heart for that. Now, Husky is asking, what do you guys think of Kimbers? So what do you think of Kimbers?
Let me pull this. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. This is my honest opinion. I really, really, really liked the old Kimbers, the old true 1911 Kimbers, when they were, I don't want to say custom because they've never been custom, but their fit, their finish, everything was tighter, the more modern Kimbers that I'm seeing. And I know that they have some with red dots, and I'm not saying they're bad guns. I have just seen problems and heard of issues. A friend of mine has a newer Kimber, and he's had to send it back 3 times. And it's a 45. I like their older stuff. I don't really care for their newer stuff. I've seen coating issues. I've seen like just parts breaking on them and them jamming up and not working correctly. Like the front will be really loose and the back will be super tight. So when you slide the slide, it's just not right. And I've picked up guns in gun stores, brand new Kimbers, and seen that on them. They're just not, I wouldn't go for a Kimber personally. not saying they're bad. You're going to get these, issues with some guns, but that's kind of my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Now I've owned one Kimber quite a long time ago, a Carry 2 or something like that. It's been a long time. I really don't know the models very well. I'm probably going to gravitate towards other brands. I like Sig, Colt, Dan Wesson, things like that. That just, to me, either have a little bit more nostalgia or just have a little bit better reputation. Kimbers don't necessarily have the greatest reputation. Now, keep in mind, I'm kind of probably shooting myself in the foot because I've said that Taurus G2Cs are okay, and they've had a terrible reputation. So take that again with a grain of salt. There are definitely some diehard Kimber folks out there, and they are beautiful guns. There are some really cool ones. The Raptors I like quite a bit, but it's not for me. I'm gonna opt for other brands.
Yeah. And like I said, if you own them, I know Keenan has one and his is really nice. That's, I mean, I'm not knocking on anyone's gun. I'm just, giving my opinions because someone asked. But I do agree with the arms, man. I think that for what you're getting, I think they are overpriced for what the product they're putting out. I mean, Dan Wesson, I don't think you can go wrong with a Dan Wesson all the way across the board. I've never seen a bad Dan Wesson. There's just, and really Sig's very reliable, Smith & Wesson, and even their older ones and their newer ones are still, I would say, considering the equal or same quality. It's not like they've gotten better or gotten worse. I actually saw a Kimber that a guy had and he put a light on it. It was the one with the little light rail on the bottom.
Yeah.
And one of the teeth, and it was probably the way that it was molded or trimmed or cut or whatever, but one of the teeth that actually holds the light on was cracked off. And I was like, he brought it into the store and was talking about it. And I was like, not a store, just a store that I go to frequently. And he just happened to be in there. And I was like, did you drop it? And he goes, no. He said, I put the light on it. And then I guess, when he put the light on and clipped it on there, it kind of cracked or whatever. And then when he was trying to pull the light off, it was stuck. He had taken the screw all the way off and was trying to pop it off. And when he popped it off, the piece came off with it. And I was like, holy crap. So I was like, I've never seen that before.
Wow.
But, and that is true. Will and Will Arms saying you can't get a Dan Wesson for $600, and you can't. But that's kind of where I'm going. If you've got $800 or $700, it's burning a hole in your pocket. Take it out of your pocket and put it in a jar and just let it simmer in there till you can add more to that and maybe get something else. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So,
and Keenan's even saying you might sell the Kimber to get more Dan Wessons. And I know people that have done that. And we've talked about this before. If you had to pick a gun, and let's say pistol, if you had to pick a pistol that you've owned and you got rid of and you regret the hell out of it, what would that pistol be? And you can only pick one.
I'd have to think about that for a minute. I'd really have to think about that. I'm not sure. I think most of the things that I really wanted to keep, I've kept or replaced.
Yeah.
With the same model later on down the road. So I'd have to think about that for a bit.
I know mine, and trust me, I've looked at them and seen them, but now they are stupid with what they want, and they're the newer ones, and that's the freaking Browning high powers. I had a beautiful, original, the old high power, the real deal, and I just never shot it. It was kind of one of those things that, I was younger and I was like, there's tons of them out there. It's just one of those things. So I had a guy offer me good money for it. So I sold it. And this was, 20 years ago, something like that, like 15, 20 years ago. And I regret it. And now that I'm seeing them, I mean, they're like $3,000, $4,000 for the one that I had. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I just, I mean, but I have, and like see Kim saying he doesn't sell firearms, he just buys them. Well, I agree with that, but I'm not just a firearms owner or shooter. I collect a lot of them. So I have a lot of guns. So every once in a while, I'm like, hey, I want to get rid of some to get more or whatever, or I just fall out of love with them. And I do regret that. Have you thought about yours?
Yeah, I still can't think of it.
Okay.
I really can't. There's nothing that sticks out so much that again that I don't still have or have replaced or just been able to walk away and go, okay, life goes on. So
yeah, it's one of those. Insight saying he traded a beautiful Smith snubby years ago and regret that. I remember. I think Insight did a video on that.
Yeah.
All right. I remember talking about that.
I did think of one.
Okay.
So this when Colt, going back to Colt again, which is odd. I rarely ever talk about Colt, but we have a sordid history. When they first released their, I want to say it's not M9A3, but something similar to that. Their Marine close quarters combat version, the railgun. But it was, and they've had several iterations of it. But the very original one that was a light tan, had the the really cool VZ grips and everything, came in the big box with the Otis cleaning kit and all that kind of thing. I had one, and for whatever ridiculous reason, like a lot of gun people do, you want it the next thing, and so you sell things. And you can't really get those anymore. And if you can, they go for $2,500 to $3,000. And at the time, I think I bought that for $1,400 or something, which was huge money back then. I mean, this had to have been 8 or 10 years ago. So it was a bigger deal. But I do kind of regret getting rid of that. I'd love to walk into one again, and I occasionally see them on Gunbroker or whatever and think about that, but no, I can't pull the trigger. No pun intended.
Yeah, and even I keep thinking, well, if I had a high power, if I found another one, I would buy it and I would shoot it. But I don't really know if I would. I would shoot it, but I don't know if it would like be in the rotation. But we've had this asked a couple of times, and I definitely wanted to get this asked. But what is your current? And I know if you rotate it, just throw a couple out there. But what's your current EDC right now?
I've narrowed that down actually. So I have 3 EDCs and that's it. It used to be a larger rotation. So Glock 43X and a Glock 48, those are primary. I like them quite a bit. And with the 15 round shield mags, it's just kind of tough to beat. A little bit lighter than let's say a 19, but you still get the same capacity. And then Glock 26. And right now I'm not carrying that so much, but it's in my ready bag along with my Banshee 300. And so those go hand in hand because they can interchange magazines. So I can have, that and a holster with it, a bunch of magazines and the Banshee with a can on it. And that's kind of my, I got to get out. Let's go. A bag, ready bag.
Yeah. My current one, or I have 3 that are pretty much in the rotation, and every once in a while I'll throw a different one in there, especially we've had some cold spells, and I've even outside waistband carried a couple with a jacket over it. But my standard P10C with the dot, which does not have the comp, and then my comped P10C, and they both have the same +2s on them, and I carry a backup mag, and then the Glock 19X, with the comp and stuff on it. So I really enjoy the 19X. It shoots great, for me shooting a Glock. But those are probably the 3 mains. And then what's really funny is people might laugh, or not. Well, I don't think they would laugh, but I actually carried my STI 1911 45, with the dot on it, the camoed one. I actually carried that the other day when it was cold. I put it in an outside waistband holster and carried it. So, but with a jacket over it. So,
right on.
Yeah, Romans is saying I should make commercials for the P10C. Hell, I pretty much have on YouTube if you look at them. Yeah, I love the gun. It just really does everything I want it to.
So Romans is saying KS is a Glock guy, and I thought a CZ would have been in the EDC mix. I've got a P10C. But I really don't carry it or anything. It's just it's kind of in the collection, so to speak. But I'm a huge CZ fan. There's some of my favorite guns. My very favorite in the collection still Shadow 2. That's comparing it to things like the Combat Master, and I still think this Shadow 2, and especially because I've picked up a Shadow 2 SAO, that is bananas. I would take that over the Shadow 2 Orange in a heartbeat. I just think that SAO is wonderful to shoot. It's kind of a mini TSO that's a little bit tamer than the TSO and equally fun to shoot. So, yeah, I'm still a CZ nut.
Yeah, I just shot. I did a video with the versus the Athena with the CZ TSO and had a great time shooting it. Really enjoyed it. And it shoots fantastic. The dot was off on his Athena. One of his Athenas, the dot was off. I shot both of them in that video. And then my dot was off because I think I had it set for like 15 yards and I was shooting like 25. So it was different, and I, wasn't really paying attention for the difference in the length or the yardage. But anyway, and I enjoy shooting. It's great. But as I was shooting it, I was like, man, I really rather shoot the Shadow 2. I mean, not, I love both of them, but the Shadow 2 is just for best all around gun that you can do everything with. But I wanted to compare a single action to a single action. So that's why I use the TSO, because I don't have the single action Shadow 2, because that's blasphemy. But, it is what it is, but they are great guns.
They are. And PO1s, that's another one. I picked up a second PO1. I'd been talking about this for a couple of years and getting a standard PO1, not an Omega, and getting that Cajunized, which I have now done. And it's fantastic. The trigger on that, I mean, it's like 1.9 pounds. Yeah. So that's obviously not a carry gun, and it's not a carry trigger. I mean, it's got the competition trigger, so it's all the light, everything. You get the occasional light primer strike in it, but boy, I'll tell you what, that thing it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I like the PO1. I'm not saying it's a bad gun. It's just so freaking small for me. Like when I jam the mag in there, I pinch the crap out of myself. I have to release my hand off of it because my hand's longer than the grip. So I have to release my hand off of it to load it, which isn't that big of a deal. But, like when you're just trying to do it fast, even dry firing at home, man, I've just pinched the crap out of my hand multiple times with it and stuff like that. So it's just, I love the gun. It's just too small for me, so, but like I said, different strokes for different folks, but
sure.
So, I know we've been talking for a while and, we can keep going with whatever you want to do, but what are you going to, and people have been asking this and we talked about it earlier, but are you having any ideas of some videos? Are you going to be putting anything out? Or are you going to be kind of coming back to YouTube? You're always welcome on the chats. I know you've got other obligations right now, but what do you think is going to be going on with you?
So I would love to, and we, talked about this a little while ago, but right now, I'm very busy. There is not a lot of time for extra stuff. And when I do have extra time, I just kind of want to relax. Because I work a lot by choice. And I like that. I like being really busy, but centerfire takes a good portion of my time, a lot more training. I'm a firearms instructor there. So that takes a lot of time. A lot of people are wanting training and new shooters and all that kind of thing. So they get some time there. But hopefully at some point I'd like to. We'll just have to see. But it'll just be kind of off the cuff and that sort of thing. So.
Sure. Kala has a question that I think is pretty cool. Big Johnson and Guns and Gear and KS, what do you think the biggest letdown pistol made by CZ and why?
The DWX.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we haven't seen it, but is there one that they make?
So no, that's the thing about CZ that drives me absolutely nuts. Although I love the products that they put out, and I haven't really met one that I don't like. Maybe the Rammy a little bit, but that's just me.
No, it's not just you.
But they have a tendency to talk about firearms that are coming out and they take forever and ever and ever and ever to come out. I mean, do you remember the Scorpion Micro?
Yep.
I mean, that was like, it sat on their website available for, I don't know, a year and a half before anybody was able to get a hold of them on the consumer level. DWX, been over a year, and we won't see it, I'm sure, at least for another year. I could be wrong, and I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but CZ is just terrible about that. You know, have a better game plan, know when the firearm is actually coming out, have all the testing done, all that stuff, then, you know, market it. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Other firearm companies do that and they're successful with it. So shut up about your firearms that aren't out on the market yet. That's a big pet peeve with me.
I agree. Kyla, I would have to say the biggest letdown CZ ever made is the CZ Rammy. And I'm just going to vent. The gun is freaking horrible. I don't like anything about it. The trigger sucks. The mags are, you know, proprietary. They're not PO1 mags, and they're like $49 a piece or $50. I mean, they're freaking crazy. If you don't put the extended mag in it, it's like made for people with 3 fingers. Even a normal hand, they're really tiny. And that's probably going to be good for some people. You know, maybe the majority of the people could still shoot it fine, but the trigger is horrible. I don't think it has that great of ergonomics personally for a CZ. I just don't really like anything about that gun. I've picked it up numerous times. I mean, I have a picture I put up on Instagram ages ago. I have a CZ Rammy with the full extended mag in my hand, and it looks like a toy pistol. It's just so freaking tiny. So I'm not a fan of that gun at all. And I agree with KS. You know, like we went through this when they introduced the P10C and the optics ready and all this other stuff. They had the gun out. They didn't freaking have any plates made. You know, people, aftermarket places like CZ Custom and stuff had to make plates for it, you know, to even put optics on them. I mean, it's like they put the cart before the horse and, you know, a lot of that stuff. So it's like they need to make sure they have all their accessories lined up, and the gun's going to be out when they say it's going to be out, and quit, you know, teasing us and doing all this other stuff. That's the part that irritates me. They've been getting better, I think, since they brought in the U.S. plant. However, not perfect, and we know about the DWX, but I just think that they missed the boat on that, because if they would have had them, man, those things would be selling like freaking hotcakes. And I do like that they're getting better about their mag compatibility. You know, like the P07 will take the P10C mags. You know, they're not having a different damn mag for every gun that comes out. But, you know, I digress. So.
Yeah.
And guy comments, you know, saying, you know, with the Rammy and the kit and all the other stuff, and, you know, yeah, and I'm not saying it's a bad gun. It's just, I think that they missed the boat on that, because if they've got the PO1, what do you need the Rammy for? I mean, you know, just my opinion, but, you know, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Well, it's getting about that time for me, friend.
Oh, and real quick, I do agree with Micah, you know, about the P10S and that P10M or whatever, you know, that they were coming out with that single stack. I think that's a freaking joke. That's like 5 years too late. You know, I haven't ever seen one of the M's. Have you?
They're not out yet.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even know if they'll ever come out. And then the S is, you know, everybody that I know that has either bought the S or thought about getting the S, they've changed their mind on it, or they've gotten it and they can't shoot it as good. And, you know, when you're talking grip length between the S and the C, for me, it's drastic, but for some people it might not be. But for controllability, I think the C is the sweet spot. And I think the S is just too small. But, you know, for concealability, for a lot of people, it might be great. And maybe some people have them and shoot them fantastic.
Yeah, true.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Sorry that we had that YouTube glitch. Hopefully I haven't seen anybody complaining about it. So, you know, hopefully it's completely fixed and this will load in, and then whatever people missed on the replay, they can go back and watch it. But yeah. So he's saying Insight saying it's hood for us to see us back together. So yeah, hopefully we can do this a lot more. But you have any closing thoughts or anything?
No. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. Thanks to all who serve or have served. That we truly appreciate that. It's good, just good to catch up with everybody. Yeah, I'll try and pop on when I can.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed it, and definitely, if you haven't checked out, KS, of course, on his Instagram and everything, please go over and check him out. I know most of y'all probably know him, but if you don't, you're new to the chat. KS is one of the OGs. Please go and check him out and subscribe to him on Instagram also. And always great to have you on there. I appreciate everyone showing up. And again, happy Veterans Day. We do appreciate your service and your family service. It means a lot. But we will definitely be back on next Wednesday. 17 will be on. He was out today, but we'll get this thing cranking again. But as always, thank y'all so much. Carry on. Be safe out there.
See you later.
Thanks, everyone.